like right now. Welcome to tonight's stream. I'm missing something here. No, it's a different scene that I'm thinking about. Anyway, welcome. Tonight's stream is a bit earlier because I have a morning shift tomorrow and I can't stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning to stream to the usual audience. So if you've decided to get up early, welcome. If you're still up from the night before, thank you for sticking around. My kids are in the process of trying to convince the missus to let them stay up for, a minute or two more like it actually matters. But yeah, I shouldn't need to go and go dad mode on them. Because of how early the stream's starting too. Dobbs won't be on co-hosting at all. So yeah. The first thing, yes, that is correct, Adrian. The first thing that we will be looking at is Jack Axton's post. But before we go that far, just so that you guys are aware, I was on 2 podcasts over the weekend and they both got released like today in the last 24 hours. So there's one with Info Runners and one with Space Tomato on Space Tomato 2. I don't have the links on me, so just go look them up on YouTube. You should be able to find them pretty quick. And I got to remember to keep YouTube open for moderation tools because OBS doesn't let you use them. So far it's only been 2 podcasts at the moment. Yeah, they're actually quite... it was quite good actually, like on both podcasts for me, just being able to sit there and just ramble on about piracy. I was a bit disappointed because one of the guests that was going to be showing up, he had some issues with his ISP and he missed being able to feature on the Info Runners episode as well. He was kind of like the counterbalance to myself and Moist. So I was actually kind of interested to get his take on some of the stuff that we're talking about. Because at times during the Info Runner show, it kind of just felt like me and Moist were just riffing off each other with a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. And Execute was pretty much just there writing notes, just kept writing notes, questions, and all that sort of stuff. Thanks, Slippy. Well, it's a lot of features that players don't know about is because that they don't interact with them and the game doesn't push them in that direction to interact with them either. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, there is so much more potential in Star Citizen than what people realize, but if they engaged more in the gameplay and used a bit of their imagination, they can make things work, to a certain degree. It's never going to be perfect. It's not the, canned content that you're going to get from CIG, but it will, suffice. Like, I know for a fact that, I got my money's worth out of Star Citizen so far. Unless I spend more money on it, in which case I gotta try and squeeze more value out of it, but, Oh yeah, there are a lot of weird interactions in this game. To be honest, Adrian, though, like, I'm not going to be surprised, like, that a lot of players still won't encounter pirates. Even with how aggressive, like, we'll be pushing ourselves out there, and, like, some other pirate orgs will be showing up too. Like, when we read through this post, because I've actually skimmed over it a few times, I have problems reading long posts, which is ironic because I write long posts too. I have issues reading long posts because I like to try and pull the details out of them, and the first thing that we're going to be reacting to actually has a lot of details in it, and that's what I have trouble focusing on, because when I start pulling details out of something, my mind starts going in a direction, and then I stop and ponder that thing. The way I see it is that, well, Jack, I know that I knew Spectrum had a word limit a long time ago. Mim, thank you very much for subbing to the channel. Yeah, I knew that Spectrum had a word limit a long time ago, and I try and keep everything in the OP as well, so if I have to go into another thing, then it's pretty important to me. Troximus, it feels early. You barely had your coffee. It's alright, just smash it into your face. And it is early. Well, it's late for me, but I've got work tomorrow morning, so I can't stay up late. I actually had to schedule time off work for the weekend so that I could actually do the Mongrel Court as well. So for those who aren't aware, and there'll be a post about it later in the next day or so, the Mongrel Court is coming back. It will be this weekend. It is going to be on the 19th of November, 3 p.m. UTC. And I've got 3 leaders of different pirate orgs who are going to be joining in on the Mongrel Court, and we're going to be talking about a lot to do with 318, cargo refactor, piracy, and pretty much get the opinions of 3 pirate org leaders, other than myself, on how they're going to approach 318. It's actually going to be a really cool talk. Mongrel Court is Mongrel Squad's podcast. We used to do it earlier in the year, and it kind of just stopped. Yeah, Blake, different pirate orgs. Captain Dirty is actually going to be one of the guests. So yes, the org leader from Chaos Squad will be there. He's actually been on the Mongrel Court before. There's actually some Mongrel Court episodes in our video library. They're buried because they were done like a year ago now. And some of them I need to go back on. Yeah, Jack was on the first one. It was myself, Jack, and Dobbs, and we had the was it Remember Levski memorial on one of the chairs in place of one of the holograms. Good morning, Trace Lines. But yeah, it's coming back. I actually put it to a poll a few weeks back, and I know not a lot of people knew what either of them were. It was between the Mongrel Court and the Mongrel Bulletin. The Mongrel Bulletin only aired for 1 episode, and then a whole bunch of shit happened and pretty much never came back. But yeah. Well, definitely, actually, Blake, I'm really keen on trying to find leaders from industrial orgs who are active and interested in talking about what their plans are for 318 and things like that. The thing about the Mongrel Court though is it's only a monthly show, so they may be featured in the December one. We don't know yet. I gotta make a decision on it. Kestrel, are we ever going to get together with these little pirate orgs? Not to work together, but not to step on each other either. Alright, before we start, I'll answer this and then we're going to start on the first topic. My opinion on any sort of alliances or agreements or anything like that, like years ago I used to, think it was a good idea. And after dealing with the Pirate Brotherhood of Libertalia and what were they called? I can't even remember what they were called. Something Confederacy. Pirate Confederacy or something like that. I can't even remember the name. That's how like long ago it was. What I learnt from interacting with those types of groups was that a lot of them are a talk and not enough action. And, you know, this was like when I was making my big piracy pushes early on in the 3 point, I think it was like 2 or 3 days, trying to get out there and do more piracy, test and all that sort of stuff. A lot of pirate orgs just weren't interested in doing it. They just wanted to sit in their discords, talk about piracy, play other games, and, you know, like try and come up with rules for themselves and each other and packs and shit like that. And one of the biggest concerns was like there was a few getting around that were like really keen on creating these packs where if they got into a fight with, you know, into a war of sorts, that you would immediately provide aid to them and help them in that war. And I've been in that situation before in Ark, and pretty much the other tribe ended up in a war. We started helping them out, and then they just bailed on the game and we were left with a war. So as soon as I started seeing that, that's a red flag to me. But like, yeah, a lot of orgs would just talk. So I'm like, fuck that. You know, I'm just going to wait for server meshing. And when these guys come in and they think that they can do what they want to do, they just start getting smashed left, right, and center because they didn't do their due diligence to themselves. Like, you know, when the dust settles, the ones who are left over, the ones worth knowing. Yeah, as I said before, I was going to answer that question. So we won't be talking with any of the, or creating any sort of like agreements with any of the other pirate orgs yet, because I want to know who's still around when the dust settles, because those will be the ones worth knowing. And everything that I've been building Mongrel Squad up for is like that moment too, when we get server meshing and the fish bowls stay the same size and more fish get put in. But for 318, we are going to be, like, everybody's a valid target. Like, I have 2 words that I like to say a lot. You guys would have heard it in the info runners. Legitimate salvage. Everyone is now legitimate salvage. Everyone is a target. And it's nothing personal. Just business. You're valuable to us. It's just you, the individual, are kind of in the way of that value. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get cracking on with the first topic. Now, this one is from a friend of the org, near and dear to everybody in Mongrel Squad. He's even featured in a couple of hits that we've done on him. And this is by none other than Mr. Jack Axton. Now, Jack has been a huge fan of Mongrel Squad. I've known Jack for a few years now. He's always wanted us to pirate him, and it's been like pulling teeth to create the circumstances where we can do it organically. Because I do not like doing fucking pre-war game shit. I don't think it's a very good way of playing Star Citizen. I prefer to try and keep it as emergent and organic as possible. So when we did get to do those hits on Jack, like, make no mistake, like, he put a lot of time and effort into avoiding us, and yeah, he didn't make it easy. Now, I'm going to start reading this out. It's a very long one, so I'm just going to get straight into this. Why some of us are upset with 318. I'm going to try my best to be cohesive here and hopefully explain the backlash A lot of traders/haulers have shown to the cargo refactor AMA, especially for those who don't understand what the fuss has been about. I'll try to keep my personal feelings to a minimum, but there will be a bias because this matters to me, and also I'm just some guy who wants to play a space game. I really wish I could do his 1920s news announcer voice, because I'd be trying to do that right now. Except more in a serious tone, not with him just hamming it up. Why some of us feel neglected. Trade has historically sat on the back burner when it comes to any sort of information on updates from CIG, whether it be features shown off in posts or new patches. While ideas and updates for things such as mining, combat, and even salvaging have been iterated upon again and again, trading and cargo hauling have, well, not. Changes to the trade economy, rare as they are usually not even listed in the patch notes, leaving people confused to changes encountered until data miners or people in the know post information regarding new or changed systems. I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. Not with trade, but with other things. While I'm sure it's not intended, the perception among some of us is that the trading gameplay loop is an unloved and neglected one compared to how much attention combat and mining have received, especially combat in all forms, be it video posts, forum participation, attention to streamer/influencer types, and everything else. A recap on the recent history of trade. The last time trade saw any sort of refresh/update was the 3.6 patch. This took us from an infinite supply/demand and static prices to the economy we have now. One that has a basic but mechanically working system fully affected by other players. Keep in mind that 3.6 dropped in July of 2019, which was 3 years ago. This patch was a colossal change for how trade worked and meant that people had to play smarter and figure out alternate routes when things were flooded by other players, especially since they were now competing against other players in other servers for the first time. Surely there would be some patch notes detailing parts of this at the time. Titanic shift in how things worked, right? The entire patch notes for the new trade system that involved dynamic supply and demand and competition across servers are as follows. Updated commodity pricing to reflect the addition of black markets and stolen goods. That's it. That's the only explanation we received, and while the change was indeed welcome, the reluctance to explain anything with the economy changes felt odd when we've seen so many videos gushing about new systems or changes to things. I'm sure someone will feel the need to bring up quantum, and to whoever does it first, I would like to ask the date on the last time that they talked about the trade economy involving quantum. Since 2019, trade has seen nothing but shadow nerfs or been advertised updates that have done nothing for actual trading. Some of these nerfs have happened in real time, which shows that the economy can be adjusted on the fly when it feels suitable. For example, in the 3.8 days, Laranite refresh rates were nerfed at both aerial locations without any notes to reflect this. The 3.11 patch introduced to us cargo decks that were touted as bringing in new options for traders. Several patches later, these continue to be useless set pieces that offer an alternate location to rent a freelancer or buy a multi-tool and have had zero gameplay or addition to the cargo trade gameplay. Nor has any updates been given about their future uses since. We're up here. In 3.12, the three regional economies, Australia, Europe, USA, were merged into one single global economy shared across all servers. This is the intended goal, but it was done so without increasing any supply or demand or refresh rates, forcing the entire community to fight amongst numbers meant for a third of the population. Say it's a bit more than a third. Or a bit less than a third, sorry. This also saw the introduction of refining, which forced miners to sell their goods as trade goods and make them rub elbows against traders and fight for demand. The only bright spot that we have seen are ILW commodities, which have had notoriously high buy-ins for their profit. And while the profit amount is decent, the profit margins are so shockingly low versus the buy-in that most real-life companies would never chance such a risky thing. And for the brief times that the occasional mistake happens and a commodity pays too much, CIG has swooped in to nerf the payout in real time, which shows that they can and have adjusted prices and demands on the fly. They just choose not to. All these are definite issues. But it has been especially wounding watching bounty hunting and mining be able to make millions hand over fist for what is comparatively riskless gameplay, as the most anyone is out if things go wrong is their ship and time involved. At this time, trading makes the least amount of money between the three and yet carries the largest risk as personal investment is required. If I lose my ship to any factor, be it player or game caused, I am out my ship, my time, and an egregious investment. I know I fucked that word up. Investment for a property, for a profit that is a fraction of what others are making. And even then, the only way to make an amount of money that is worthwhile via trading is to use the largest of ships, the Carracks Caterpillar C2s. A player using a starter ship up to a Taurus is better off performing the most basic of missions rather than doing trade, as it pays pennies compared to most things. Why should a player risk their own money on a trade run when they can knock out a simple mission that involves zero financial risk, usually in a fraction of the time involved to even do a trade run? It pains me when I have to explain to a new player that their starter hauler / trade ship is not going to make them any worthwhile amount of money versus doing a 3-minute comrade mission or bounty hunting job. And the money situation becomes even worse when attempting to pay turret gunners or escorts who can make more elsewhere. Well, I don't really need to say it that often, Jack. So why is 3.18 so upsetting? For a very long time, 3.18 has been touted as the cargo refactor patch. This whole thing could have been avoided if it was called the cargo box refactor. And while wording has been vague, the general sentiment among players was that 3.18 would bring changes to a stale system that has not been kept up with. We are tired of going through the motions of hitting the same outposts for the same overtaxed commodities. We are tired of the linear economy that makes only about 5 to 6 commodities worth trading. We're tired of a drug trade that has been non-existent for 3 years. We are tired of forcing ourselves to switch to suboptimal commodities just for a change of scenery instead of following a changing economy. We are tired of the radio silence that we have experienced for a third of this project's life, while things like combat see nearly weekly involvement from devs on Spectrum. So with 3.18 being announced as cargo refactor, we clung to that. And maybe that's our fault. A lot of us took the vagueness of the cargo refactor as a sign that we would have to discover what changes were coming. After all, they have never communicated economy changes before. Why would they start now? So a lot of us have been holding out for hope that 318 would be what invigorated us. Especially now that this refactor would be giving players the ability to remove boxes from ships and give piracy the options it needs to get aggressive with their marks. With this expected increase in risk from both professional and new wannabe pirates, gunning for more aggression and soft death now meaning that our ships aren't necessarily needed alive, surely we would see an increase to our reward to both bring it in line with other professions and in the increase risk we would now be facing, especially after this June 9th ISC. It's a little clip. I'm not going to play it here because it won't actually play from the timestamp and it'll just show up as a tiny little fucking thing. Because for whatever reason, Turbulent changed the native YouTube player to only stay this size when you play videos and force you to go to YouTube, and I don't want to do that. But he says this: stay tuned, traders and haulers, help is coming. Again, maybe it's on us for clinging to those words and salivating over what else 3.18 would be bringing for us. Until, of course, the AMA happened and we were told that no changes to the economy would be happening at this time, which is incredibly bad for pirates, but that's another subject, as they wouldn't want to balance it again once timers become a thing. So yes, a lot of us got upset, salty. Some of us took to Spectrum to rage, which is what I guess I'm doing now. Us tired traders have been holding out for an update which would invigorate our gameplay and breathe new life into it. We were led to believe that 318 would be that patch, and are now expressing that tired exasperation that the only thing it is introducing is a new way for others to take our cargo, which is yet another thing to make the trade gameplay worse compared to others. While it can be argued that it's our fault for leading ourselves to believe that, I would like again to mention that CIG's reluctance to talk about anything involving trade economy updates forces us to be left to our own devices, especially since the Passover on economy updates is only just now being mentioned this far into the development of 318. Continued here. I still can't believe a forum has a text limit in 2022. Yes, Jack, they do. And let's go to that comment. Continued. Just going to quickly catch up on chat here. So yeah, I'll comment on that stuff towards the end about the whole trade pretty much being treated like the red-headed stepchild, the twin of piracy to a certain point. But yeah, I want to finish this off because this is about us. So why is it bad for pirates anyway? It's their patch. There's a lot of misinformation on how the game works. On Spectrum and in the game, you'll hear a lot of people say that CIG ups the rewards for new mission types and gameplay loops so that people will test them. This bringing in a new twist to a gameplay loop. You would think that it would receive some sort of stimulus, a little boost, to get people excited and back into trading and piracy. But again, traders are receiving yet another thing against them for the time being that will discourage both casual traders and tired diehards. I would also like to cite this the next time someone utters such falsehoods about new things getting elevated payouts. I'm sure you've seen all the piracy videos. Maybe one or two. The action. the negotiation, the murder, the pillaging. But what you don't see is the sometimes hours wait it takes to find an appropriate mark. This is because at the moment, there are very few traders, and this is before 318 mind. For a predator-like gameplay loop to thrive, its prey gameplay loop needs to have a barrier of entry low enough that any idiot with $1 can do it with just about any ship capable of holding a respectable amount of cargo. With a larger group of traders in the lanes, there's going to be several more inexperienced or unaware traders out there that are easier marks and makes piracy more attractive, giving both gameplay loops a shot in the arm they need, as pirates don't need to sulk about for hours across several outposts on several servers to find even one hit. However, if you leave the current system in place with its current supply and prices, you're going to find fewer traders, as some give up and abandon the loop until it sees better updates. With this happening, pirates will have less traders to prey on, and the ones they do have are going to be veteran diehard grognards that know how to minimize their risk windows, avoid interdictions, and generally make tracking them down and knocking them over just not worth it. The best way to feed the predators is to make being prey more attractive. Ask any pirate and I'm sure you'll find that they'll say the best time for pirating has been when trade benefited the most. Not to mention the current supply and demand at fence locations is also abysmally low. Need a drink. So any pirate that does manage to score a whale is going to struggle to unload their wares, especially with how restrictive a lot of fence locations are, with what cargo types they take and how much they'll take. We've been given the action portion of cargo movement and active piracy without the proper background system and economy to support said action. At the end of the day, there will still be traders. I will still be hitting the trade lanes in an increasingly sloppy manner on the off chance I see some piratey action and get to parlay. Maybe eventually we'll see some improvement, but at the moment we're tired of being let down by a patch many perceived as a rescue, and it turns out that the help we were told is coming is arriving with a black flag to a gameplay loop that has been beaten and neglected for years. I, for one, welcome the piracy, but there's a lot less diehards out there who don't want to have them, that don't have the masochistic streak that I have, and collectively, we all just want the loop we love to be given the same treatment and love as the other two. Thank you for your time, and yes, I know, it's an alpha. Alright. It's a long one. There's a lot. We're going to be going back to the start. I'm going to be breaking this down. This actually took me a while to read through the first few goes that I tried doing it, because there's a lot of details in here. Because whilst Jack, talks about trade, and the history of it, I too was there when it was all happening too. And I was the pirate during those times as well. And I have a different take on things. Now I'm going to preface my reaction to this with this. Trade does need support. However, there's a few things that I think are coming out of this as a reaction because of a misconception of what Cargo Refactor was going to be. I can understand how people misinterpret it because CIG is terrible at fucking communicating their intent with a lot of things, especially things that they're going to be bringing into the game. I had always interpreted Cargo Refactor as only being boxes that were now physicalized. Physicalized cargo. That was what it was known as previously before they called it the cargo refactor. Other reason why they call it cargo refactor is because it's not only the boxes. The boxes are the player facing side of things. CIG is going to change the fundamental framework of how cargo boxes actually work. One of the things that you guys have to understand, and if you go back to stuff that CIG has talked about when they were talking about SCU boxes and how they, came up with an SCU, how they, came to the conclusion of what an SCU is. Essentially, a box is literally just an empty container, and you're supposed to be able to fill it with stuff. That's what CIG's always wanted, and they couldn't do that for 3.0. So they just made it so that your ship filled up with boxes when you bought cargo. That was it. It was just like a mass of boxes just all glued together, and then if you scan the ship, you'd have the values would be attached to the ship, and the box would be visually represented, but there was never actually anything physical there. Now each box has contents. That's what cargo refactor brings. And it's actually quite important later on down the track when we start dealing with the larger size boxes. And when we start putting other things into the boxes, like weapons, like ammunition, like, even vehicles. So Tier 0 cargo refactor was more about getting the box set up than it was about trade. And, CIG, even though they added soft death in for this patch, cargo refactor was never about piracy either. It just presented an opportunity for pirates to actually profit from cargo haulers, like the thing that we have been after for years. Like Jack's talking about, missing out on trade from 3.6 and, it being slowly going down. Like piracy has been slowly going up, but the one thing that we always wanted, which was to pull boxes off those ships, is now coming in the game in the next patch. Okay, that's nearly 4 years after 3.0 got released. So, whilst I can sympathize with Jack about, the gameplay loop that he's been experiencing, not getting the love that, he's been wanting for, a while now. It's about fucking time we got what we wanted. The pirates finally got something that actually lines up with what everybody would consider piracy. As opposed to, what we've been doing, where we've been doing extortion and ransom and blowing ships up and, they're just a loot pinata that most of the time the boxes despawn. But we finally got our thing. But it was never CIG's intent that Tier 0 cargo refactor was for pirates. It was literally to physicalize the boxes and set them up with the framework that they need so that they can expand on how cargo hauling works. Now, the whole feeling neglected, I get that too. Like, we're intrinsically linked when the economy changes. Pirates are affected by the economy. But there's something that, I'm going to bring up now, and it's going to keep coming up. Trade, having high profit margins, gets to a point where it's bad for pirates. It's all well and good that the cargo haulers get to sit there and go, yeah, I'm making, heaps of money. The problem is, though, is that they reach a threshold and then they don't care anymore. They don't care that they lose all those credits. He mentions the Laranite rush. And we had a Laranite rush in 3.9. The first couple of weeks was phenomenal for piracy gameplay. The remaining 6 were shit. Because everyone was rich. Everyone did trade. Everybody moved Laranite from Ariel to Hurston. And they just did that over and over and over again. And there weren't enough pirates to keep up with them. And what happened was they all got rich to the point where it was like we'd show up and trying to extort them and we're going, hey, pay us 100k and we'll go away. And like, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna bloody make this ship explode. Watch 1.3 million credits disappear in front of your fucking eyes. Now, I understand what Jack's getting at here, but I have seen the other extreme, and I know he's not pushing for that. But we've experienced this in this patch as well for 3.17. In the first few weeks of 3.17 piracy gameplay, we were struggling to keep up with the amount of targets that we were getting. Like, fucking Oceanics were getting 5, you know, every event for the first few weeks. A lot of them were bloody rock miners. And the reason for it was that we just had a recent wipe and everybody's trying to make money and there weren't any more, you know, credit duplication exploits that they could use. So we had heaps of miners to hit. There weren't too many cargo haulers because there was still this whole mentality that trade is dead. And it is to a certain degree. But I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to our channel lately, but a lot of the most recent videos have been on cargo haulers doing trade because we are still hitting them. And the irony is that because trade has been nerfed so badly in terms of profit, for the masses, there's actually a smaller pool of people doing trade where they're able to make a, you know, somewhat of a profit because there's not enough people there. We did a hit recently in the Oceanic time zone where we waited 40 minutes for somebody to fill their C2 up at an outpost, and they were filling up 50 to 80 50 to 80 SCU of Laranite at a time. And this was on Wala, at one of the outposts. I can't remember. I think it was 4-5. And the tick rate for how much is supposed to refresh, I believe, was around 80. I have to check SC Trade Tools. That means that on that global economy that we're all running, only that guy that we had found more than likely was the one trading that commodity. They were purchasing it and able to 55? You're probably more than right there, Blake. I need to go back over that video because it was a decent hit. But yeah, the point that I'm making though is that trade needs to be balanced in a way that there is enough people that are interested in doing it. But it can't be making hand over fist more credits than what bounty hunting or mining can do. I know that there's a big investment, you know, requirement there, and to me, the solution to that is actually putting in insurance for cargo. That's the solution there for me. Now, bounty hunting and mining gameplay, being able to make as much credits as they can, like bounty hunters being able to make as much as they can, is purely based on the poor state of the server health. The server frame rate being so low and the AI just not being able to process fast enough to keep up with player actions. That's it. Mining, on the other hand, if you really want to be making a lot of credits from mining, you're literally targeting one commodity and it can't be traded. You can't buy it anywhere, you have to mine it, and that's Quantanium. In fact, the majority of the profitable commodities that you mine can't be bought via trade. Which is going to be interesting for us because if those boxes are physicalized and they're full of quantanium that has been refined, there's no place that will buy, or there's no NQA terminals that will buy that. So I'll have to see what CIG is going to do about that. But yeah, his point about how much, you invest in it. Like miners are investing, 100K or more in their equipment, and their attachments that they put onto their mining lasers, they disappear. They don't come back on the ship. So if you destroy their ship, they lose. They could lose any potentially, if they're in a prospector, 100K. If they're on a mole, like up to 300K or more in just upgrades for their mining lasers and stuff like that. So there is an investment there. It's just, how often do they really get attacked? And in comparison to how much they make, doesn't really matter. And when we're extorting miners, a lot of them just don't care, because they're so rich now. They're doing it for the gameplay. So yeah, we've gone through that part. Comparisons on here. It is disappointing that for trade at lower levels, using smaller ships like the Freelancer, the Cutlass and all that, it's disappointing that you can't really make much of that. But that's where I see that you would be doing cargo missions as opposed to trading. And really, like, there's nothing stopping players from trying to engage in a level of economy themselves. And I'll talk about that towards the end. And ironically, Care Bears killed a potential player-driven economy loop that would have actually been pretty cool to engage in. But because Care Bears cried, we all miss out. Alright. So why is 318 so upsetting? This here is a misinterpretation. That's what it comes down to. I understand that they want trade to be better. We've wanted piracy to be better for years too. And we've been in the same situation where we get changes to mechanics that we use and nothing is said mid-patch. And unless we're sitting there and we're telling CIG, hey, like you've literally just, you're killing an entire gameplay loop by doing this thing, and we're lucky enough that they're paying attention, they might do something. A good example of that was, I believe it was 3.15 when they changed EMPs. No, 3.14 it was. Where they started streamlining all the, they baselined all weapons for ships and components. They baselined them all to be the same stats based on size. Jack, I've already read through it, man. I'm giving my breakdown of it. You probably need to watch the previous 10 minutes to be able to catch up. But with regards to the things about EMP, I was surprised that we had CIG reach out to us when I pointed out that, hey, what you've just done to EMP pretty much kills piracy in any way, shape or form. Like, we are literally relegated back to just doing extortion gameplay, and it's just like, most people don't pay because they don't have to. So, like, I can sympathize with Jack's point here when, he's talking about vagueness of changes and things that affect your gameplay loop. And all you can really do is, check. We know Jack does, or used to do, the state of trade where you go around, for a few hours and check every single outpost, which is going to become harder when we get bloody quantum in the game. So it'll expand on all the different places where you can move commodities to and from. But, it is what it is. But yeah, my interpretation of cargo refactor was that it was only the boxes. It was a physicalization of the boxes, as I said when I was doing my breakdown at the start. It was them making boxes, actual boxes, and setting the structure for the next iterations of cargo. So that a box is literally an empty box that you can put stuff into. And as they expand that, when they put the larger boxes in, that actually starts meaning more, because we can then put, weapons and stuff like that, because we're already able to do that to a certain degree. We can put random shit into boxes and it will take up space in them. A big feature for us, for pirates, is being able to scan boxes and see the contents inside. I actually mentioned that on I think it was the Info Runners, or maybe it was Space Tomorrows, I can't remember. One of those two podcasts. But it's important that we get that, that baseline sorted out for everything. Because NPCs will also need that data too. And it sets up CIG for being able to expand on it, for that smuggling gameplay, so that we have black markets, being able to tie into the economy. And yeah, as I said at the start, CIG's communication has been shit. They are shit at communicating their intent. So it is easy for people to run away with things. To interpret something that, hey, like this guy said this thing, it must mean this. Now, that's not new to Star Citizen, nor to, the community, nor to games in general, where we're just so starved for content, for something new. We always want to know what's coming next, that, we see something and we're like, oh, maybe it means this. It's one of the reasons why I don't really push for theory crafting much in Mongrel Squad. I try and keep it to a minimum, because it creates unrealistic expectations. And I can understand why people would expect that, like, oh, we're getting cargo refactor, maybe that means that because we're getting, physicalized cargo, that CIG is really going to want us to, put it through its paces. So they'll do something to trade commodities so that players are more motivated to interact with that. And it makes sense, because we've seen, like other things do it. We've seen them do it with other professions where they've tried incentivizing it. That's the way it looks like. And CIG has never denied that they're doing that, nor have they ever confirmed it. But I've always believed in the saying, if it, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. And I was surprised when they mentioned that there wouldn't be anything happening to the economy. But at the same time, I was kind of expecting it. Like, I thought they would have at least done something. But I really wasn't expecting it to happen. I was like, they're just focusing on the boxes and they don't want to touch, Tony Zurovic's, trade or anything like that, because he's probably like, every week he's probably like, this close to being able to get it done. And yeah, for all we know, it's probably ready to go. And we're just literally waiting on, server meshing and, persistent entity streaming and all that to get in and, functioning before we actually get to, do anything with it. But we don't know. Jack, one of the things that I've always, when I do write stuff on Spectrum, is I put it there for CIG to read at their own pace. And that's it. I don't expect them to do anything about it, which is why I was surprised when they did something about EMPs in 3.14. So I pointed out to them, when they baselined the EMP components, they made them all the same as Well, they made the Warlock the same as the Sentinel. And then you had the Raven there, which was pretty much no change. And it's like, well, that's an exclusive ship. You can't get that unless you're paying stupid amounts of real money for on the grey market. That's unreasonable. And the Hawk, just you'd need twice the amount of Hawks to achieve what the Raven. Like you need 2 Hawks for 1 Raven, or 2 Hawks for 1 bloody Warlock. Which means that the piracy composition goes up to achieve, that thing. So when they responded to that, I was amazed. And I did get a DM from one of the devs saying, like, I read your post and we're going to look into it. And they made their changes and it was like, okay, cool. We were able to continue doing piracy to a certain degree. And then the next few patches, they kept changing components and we're like, all right, well, let's just work around it. I always interpret it that CIG is watching what we're doing and they're really only going to talk to us when they, have specific questions or have specific things that they want to tell us. And they kind of just like, I don't know, it's kind of like a kid watching ants run around and they throw a fucking cookie onto the ground and, throw a bloody piece of, soft candy on the ground and see what the ants go for first. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, unless CIG says it, like verbatim, I try not to speculate too much on what they're doing. Which is why when it came to Cargo Refactor, I was like, all right, I know what that is. That's just physicalized boxes. This is them setting up the framework so that they can expand on how cargo works. And when they were talking about timers and things like that, I thought about it and my developer brain kicked in and it's like, they're not going to get that. That's not going to make it in. And then I started thinking about it more and I'm like, all right, well, what do they actually need for this to work? Like, what is the bare bones, the minimum viable product for Cargo Refactor? It's like a box with properties attached to it that can say that it has a certain quantity of a certain item in it and that it belongs to someone. That is like the bare minimum for me in using my developer brain on that for a box. And they've probably got other properties with it too. Yeah, like that statement there, stay tuned, traders and haulers, help is coming. That could have meant anything, man. Like, what was it? Nine Tails. Medical supplies, that fluctuates. You can buy bulk medical supplies during that time and sell bulk medical supplies and just make hand over fist credits. That may be enough to, they may have considered that enough for haulers and traders to, engage in that gameplay. As you mentioned, the ILW commodities. The limited time stuff during specific events. Like, it's not great. It's not what we were expecting, but they may have considered it good enough. And they may have limited scope with what they can work with anyway. We don't know. I think the problem is, Jack, though, is that them coming up with something that they could put in there and them actually having the time to put it in there are 2 different things. And as I said before, CIG's communication on their intent is shit. And them coming back and saying, yeah, that thing that we said to traders and haulers that help was coming, we were pushing for it, it just ain't making it. And they kind of say that, like, because the timers didn't get in, there's no, there's no point in adjusting the commodity or the trader commodity. That's just it, man. CIG is still building this as we're playing it. I'm going to jump down to here. Now this is really where the piracy side of things, and I have a perspective on this that obviously comes from being on the other side of the fence, watching all this happening, engaging with it as a pirate. I said it before, and I'll say it again. During the Laranite rush of 3.9, it was great for the first 2 weeks. The remaining 6 was shit for pirates. Yeah, Jack, I understand. I've hit the word limit on Spectrum plenty of times too. I actually delete a lot of the posts that I'm making after spending hours writing them up. Because I get to a certain point, I'm like, it's not worth it anymore. Or I go, this would be better in a video. And then put it into a Google Doc, and then it just sits there until I find the motivation to turn it into a video. But my point about the Laranite rush, and we've experienced this in 3.17 as well, as I said earlier. You weren't there for it, Jack. It was good for the first couple of weeks, and then it was shit for the rest of it. And the reason for it was that we had plenty of targets the entire time. The problem is that after the first couple of weeks, they were all rich enough that they didn't give a fuck. That's the problem. And that's why trade can't be too profitable. It needs to be profitable enough to motivate enough people to do it, but it can't be so profitable that everybody wants to do it, and that after a short period of time, they can continue doing it and make the numbers in their wallet go up, whilst at the same time, just go fuck you to the pirates. Now, I know that's not what you're saying here, that it needs to be that much. But it's not mentioned that sort of format either. Like, trade needs to be balanced in a way that it's profitable enough to, you know, encourage people to take the risk. And I know that piracy has been a very low risk factor when it comes to cargo haulers. Like, I'm very clear on that. And I say it a lot too. Like, you're more likely to lose your cargo to a crash for a 30k than a pirate. And there's not much that we can do about that. 3.18 though, that may change. And this goes back to, like, I'm going to allude to one of Tony Zurovic's videos when he was talking about quantum and how pirates, essentially how industrialist pirates and security forces operate within an area. And essentially how they want to simulate how it works. So, you know, all the industrialists find something that's profitable. They all start flocking there. The pirates hear about it, and they all start going there and pirating the industrialists. So the industrialists who want to make money start contracting security to come, you know, kick the pirates out. And it starts balancing itself out. And to be honest, I think CIG wants to see what happens if they don't change the economy, but they add this additional factor. Now I know, and you point this out here, it's going to discourage casual traders and tired diehards. There's still going to be people who will try it, where they will take the risk. Yeah, Jack, the amount of people who will self-destruct their ship worth millions of credits in front of your face. Like, you are the exception as opposed to the rule right now in this community when it comes to dealing with pirates. We have seen the wide swath of reactions when it comes to cargo haulers or industrialists or just generic players. So when it comes to, like my perspective on this, I don't think it's going to be that bad for pirates. Part of the reason for that is salvaging gameplay. I think salvaging gameplay is going to help out a lot here. But also, players trying piracy for the first time, and everybody's sitting there going, well, everybody's just going to be pirates and there's not going to be any traders. And then, it kind of balances itself out because all the pirates start fighting each other and going, there's no one here to pirate. I'm just going to go find something else to do. And then, there's less pirates. And then the people who wanted to do trade go, hey, there's not as many pirates over there. And that point that I was making about Tony Zurovic's thing, like, kind of starts balancing itself out, where pirates reduce in numbers, industrials increase in numbers. Ideally, security forces would be involved, but, they're still waiting for their bloody mechanics to get added, apparently. Only talking to people in chat and Discord and, making agreements and packs and things like that, or, just jumping into servers and going to places where haulers and that move around and just patrolling around. Apparently that's a lot too difficult for them and they need something a bit more, what's the right way of saying it? Hand-holdy. They need their hands held a bit more than what pirates do. But what I see out of all this is opportunity. Because it'll balance itself out. You're going to have the, swath of people come in and go, yeah, I'm going to be a pirate. And those of us who have been doing piracy for, long enough, we're going to be able to find targets and we're going to be able to hit them. We'll probably have these, tryhards show up and we'll just, push them out of the way. And it's like, get the fuck out of the way because, you don't know what you're doing and we do. We end up pirating them if we come across them and they're there, trying to pull cargo across, we'll just fucking hit them. That's why I said for 318, it's red flag operations for Mongrel Squad. Everybody is a, target. Salvage is coming in 318, so everyone is legitimate salvage. We will make money off of everyone. So when it comes to that, you're going to have the pirates regulating the pirates for a bit. Because you're going to be fighting over the limited amount of haulers that are around. And with that mentality, those who get pushed out, you're going to go find something else to do. They'll be like, this is too hard. I'm not making anything off this. I show up and I get smashed by a group of pirates. Smashed by another group. There's hardly any haulers getting around. And we're all just fighting over the scraps. That's what's supposed to happen. That is what's supposed to happen. That's the like the ecosystem balancing itself out to a certain degree. The only problem that we've got is that we've got 1,000 different fish bowls out there. So piracy is still going to be rare. Even with all the players trying their hand at it. Like the people who aren't interested in doing trade, the casuals, because they're like, I don't want to lose my credits to pirates. I don't want to give them a win. I don't want them to have the opportunity. It's like, we were never counting on them to fucking do trade, to haul cargo. We were never counting on them. They're not the ones that are the real targets that we're after. You can't rely on that. We're relying on the people who actually want to do trade, who actually want to haul cargo as their gameplay loop. Because those are the people who are going to be more invested in the gameplay aspect. The casuals are just there to, make the numbers in their wallet go up. That's it. So they're going to try and cheese their way through the entire experience. And if they can't do that, they'll find something else to cheese their way through. But I see opportunity coming out of this. Lots of opportunity. And it's kind of disappointing that it's, you know, coming back now, because we had opportunity similar to this happening when prison sentences were a lot longer and rock mining was a lot more popular. But because Care Bears cried about prison sentences being too long because they kept getting accidentally sent to prison, we ended up in a position where the opportunity for a merit-based, player-driven economy coming up, we missed out on that opportunity there. Because the missions are so easy to do. You can be out in like 10 minutes. Oh, Grifter, we've got plenty of people on, you know, we've got videos in our library of people who, you know, like the experience of being pirated. The thing about this is that the merit-based economy would have been player-driven, where merits, or the gems, would be worth more as merits. And there were orgs already engaging in that. Chaos Squad, they would sit there and they would brag about how they made, you know, hundreds of millions of credits, you know, from pirating a rock miner. And what they were doing was they were basing their the value of their hit on the conversion that they would have within their internal groups that would buy the gems off them, so that those people could convert it into merits, and then those merits could be sold off to those who wanted to get out of prison quickly. And the opportunity that could have come out of that was merit wars. Pirates who are going out there and hitting rock miners and selling those gems to merit traders. And then those merit traders trying to sell those merits to players in game. They're not going to want competition. They're going to hire pirates to go and take on their competition, which just happen to be other pirates. And what you see there is emergent gameplay happening all around something as simple as getting the fuck out of prison faster. And the thing is that it could have been turned into like a you know, a larger player-driven economy where, and Salty Mike was doing this, where he was going out, he was mining gems, and then he'd give them to Cutlet to convert into merits to sell. And Salty Mike with his org, they were turning it into a production chain where they'd have people out, you know, in multiple places rock mining, and they'd be, you know, picking up those gems, and then they'd put it onto a cargo ship, and then the cargo ship would fly to the outpost and then move it off somewhere else so that it could be converted into merits, put somewhere safe. And what we have now in 3.18 is that opportunity coming about again. Because there's not that much in the way of trade commodities getting around. The value of trade commodities hasn't changed. The pool of commodities isn't increasing. Which are all unfortunate things, but can also be considered a blessing in disguise. Because only those who are really dedicated to doing piracy are going to be, you know, the ones who come out on top. They're going to push. They're going to want that, you know, those haulers who are willing to take the risk. The haulers who are actually engaging in that, you know, hauling gameplay, that trade gameplay. They're the ones that are really going to be, you know, invested in the gameplay. But the irony here is that players can band together where pirates and cargo haulers are working together. Because for us in Mongrel Squad, one of the things that we'll be testing out is having a support service group that kind of follows our raider teams around. The raider teams go out, They find the targets, they pirate them, they hand it off to the support service group who handles the moving of the cargo, the whole stripping of the ship, and the processing of all that cargo. Now, whether or not we maintain that is another thing beyond 318. But not all of our time zones can do that. So what we'd end up also doing is creating a little black book of haulers that we know and salvagers that we know who are interested in that gameplay, who are a bit more unscrupulous with the source of where their cargo comes from, who are willing to buy that cargo, and the pirates will sell it to them at a discounted rate because, they're literally just selling a ship to them full of cargo, and something's better than nothing unless they want to spend the time unloading it onto their own ships, doing the whole stripping and all that. Or they can just sell it at a discounted rate to somebody who is interested in that gameplay. And we start seeing a player-based economy happening there. Player-driven gameplay. Where haulers start, could be put into a position where they have to bid on ships, bid on the cargo of a bunch of ships. And then other pirates start getting involved, and haulers going, hey, like this guy just bought this ship from these pirates, but I want that ship. I'll give you X amount of credits if you go hit them. Go take that ship from them as well. And that's where that emergent gameplay starts happening. And the reality is that if trade is too abundant, you won't get that. I agree that trade is really lean right now. A bit too lean for my liking. But it has the potential there to balance out. And that's what I'm banking on. This would be a lot more obvious if we had server meshing, where we're all on the same fishbowl. But because we're all separated on different servers, the impact probably won't be as great. But the potential is there. And that's what I'm banking on. That's what I want to, experience. That's what I'm going to push for. To expand on the interactions that we have with each other beyond, hey, I'm going to pirate you. It's going to be like, hey, I pirated this guy. I've got this fucking cargo hauling ship. It's full of laranite. I'll sell it to you for 500k because I don't want to deal with the cargo. You can bloody take all the cargo yourself. I'll give you the ship with the cargo. Take the cargo. Bloody strip the hole in the ship. Sell all that shit off. 500k straight up. We'll meet up in dead space. You take the ship. Give us the credits. Good to go. And that's one of the things that we kind of need to push for more, is creating that gameplay. This is where, haulers and traders could really make a lot more from doing trade if they engage with pirates. And that's the thing is Jack, you've already experienced that level of gameplay and it's going to increase. The potential there is, greater. And this is really where, I don't think CIG is doing this intentionally, but I'd like to think that they're going to try and push in that direction. Give us that, give us enough rope to hang ourselves with. And if we decide to throw it around our neck and go bungee jumping, then, well, they'll make their adjustments. But I know a lot of players are sitting there going, oh, this is just a pirate patch and fucking it's just going to be full of griefers going around and everybody's going to be trying to pirate and there aren't going to be any haulers. Well, it's very short-sighted. It may be like that for the first couple of weeks, but as I said, 2 words here, legitimate salvage. Everybody is salvageable. We're going to be able to salvage every ship. And so pirates are just going to be getting around. Those who understand that concept are going to be getting around just fucking annihilating everything in the way. And then the vultures will be following behind. Aptly named for a reason. Picking away at the carcasses that the killer teams create. And it's either the community stands up together and pushes back, or they just roll over. But the pirates will still be there. And if they're doing that to other people and they've got valuable cargo, you're going to try and take it from them too. Nothing really, Jack. It's a lot of time and effort though. A lot of time and effort for that money. You know, wouldn't it be easier just to let 100 other people spawn one ship than to have one player spawn 100 ships? Doesn't matter who owns the ships, really. And that's the thing about this, is like the opportunity for insurance fraud, which is essentially what people are talking about there. It's very high. Don't get me wrong, it's very high. Then again, you know, 2 players doing that, if they get caught by pirates once, how many times do you think they're going to do that? Hey, Baron. Like, you know, the rumors are that the salvage material will be just as profitable as Quantanium, and if that's the case, everybody's going to want to be doing salvaging. Hello, Donnie. Almonds or cashews? I prefer peanuts. Salted peanuts. If I was going to have a nut-based snack, it would be peanuts. But I'm not allergic to them. Yeah, like, we'll experience salvaging gameplay at a higher level with a lot more people engaging in it, but CIG is also introducing wrecks that you can salvage as well. So not all salvages are going to be out there, you know, like following pirate bands around. I'm telling you now, like, there's a lot more opportunity for player-driven gameplay than what people, you know, realize. And like, trade, you know, isn't getting the love that it desperately needs. But it's coming eventually. Soon. We've been in that position though for years, Jack. Pirates have been here too. We've been here right alongside with you. We were there before. We're still here. And we've finally got a patch. We've got another bot. I'm just doing the cleanup right now. So, yeah, like, there's points that I agree with Jack on this. I get where he's coming from. it's a bit tiresome to see other fucking professions get, you know, so much attention. Combat, though, like Squadron 42, it's obvious that combat's going to get a lot more attention than any other profession in this game. So to complain about that is kind of a, just one of those things where I just sit there and go, yeah, I understand what you mean, but they're actually making another game where combat is a central thing of it. So kind of makes sense that we get a lot of updates and love for combat-based gameplay. Mining though, fuck mining. Like, mining does not need more shit. They've got plenty. Getting salvaging now. So it's now salvaging turn. Turn of salvages is coming. Anyway, I don't remember if I actually linked this in chat, so I'm going to link it again. If you have not upvoted this like me, because I'm going to do it right now. And I wanted to do this on stream. I just posted the link to this forum post. Go upvote it. Needs to be way more pirate flags on this. This is a Herc one? Didn't know there was a Herc. Middle finger? Okay. Go upvote it if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this chat actually have. There should be way more pirate flags in this too, because I know a lot of fucking pirates have read this. I know a lot of people in Mongrel Squad have read this. I don't know why you haven't fucking done the pirate flag as well. You're slackened. There's the other one. Don't forget to upvote the other part too. Because it's Jack Axton, and we like Jack. And I do have a different take on a lot of what he talks here, but it's a different perspective. Doesn't mean that Jack's wrong. 27, better. It should be more. Yeah, I'm not going to bother going through the Spectrum Dweller responses, man, because I get a lot of those, so I already know what's going to be there. I know a lot of you will want me to, but can't stay up too long tonight. And we're already, this one's going a long time already. So yeah, that was Jack Axton's post. Upvote, pirate flag. It's important, you know, that communication happens. To be honest, like, we need to see more communication like that, well thought out, with lots of points in there. Bit of a history lesson in there. Important that those history lessons happen too, because we've got a lot of new backers who don't know fucking anything about what we had in the past. Oh, Anta, welcome to the club, mate. Fucking there's Spectrum Warriors who will post anything. If I post anything to do with piracy, they are immediately on it. It just happens, man. It's a problem on Spectrum, though. It's an unfortunate one. I don't like it. I don't like how you have that happening in this community, because it discourages discussion on topics that, you know, certain groups would be interested in, but it doesn't happen because there's Spectrum dwellers there who play Spectrum Citizen. Spectrum is a light version of Twitter. To be honest, I think Twitter's catching up at the moment. In terms of, Actually, no, I meant that backwards. Twitter's leaving Spectrum in the dust at the moment with how that's going, but I don't want to go there. Shortest time span ever measured. Time between an Agens lady post and a comment that says, "Leave me alone, Griefer, this game isn't finished yet." Alright, let's move on. Because we got another... this one's a bit lengthy too. It's a bit spicy. It actually got moderated as well. And I'm interested. I kind of read through this one, but I don't really remember it. It wasn't that memorable. But I do remember it was a bit spicy. Alright, so here we go. From Alistair Gray. I am sorry, but this cargo refactor is not okay. Any logistics-driven SC player has been looking forward to the cargo refactor in 4 quotation marks? Serious. For at least the last few months, but for many of us, the last few years. Cargo hauling / trading is a huge part of any space sim. Besides for combat, it might be the biggest and most important loop of any space sim, and even that is second to combat. Is debatable at least. I asked here, what can we expect from the cargo refactor? Here's a link there, I'm not going to go to that. Back in May. Not only did it take CIG 6 months to say anything palpable about what it would actually entail, but what it actually does entail is boxes are now boxes. I did mention this in Jack Axton's post, but I'll come back to this. This makes absolutely zero difference to anybody who actually regularly ran cargo in Star Citizen. This should actually have been called Piracy 1.0, because that's what it is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Care Bear and I'm not a space dad. I think piracy is great and adds a lot to Star Citizen. So I am legit hoping to see more pirates now, because that way at least the players are giving me some content. Seriously, we've been waiting for this for years, months, for a word from you, CIG. If you go through that thread I linked, many people were toning down their expectations, settling for loading and unloading. You wouldn't be able to see it happen. It'll just be a timer. But nope, even the tuned down estimates were woefully optimistic, as always with anything CIG does. "6 months for a word on it. And when we do actually hear what we're finally getting for all our wait, even after someone on an ISC a couple of months ago said, 'Don't worry, cargo haulers, help is coming.' It was already long after the crash recovery, so it definitely wasn't what he was referring to. This is what you slap us in the face with. Here you go, cargo haulers, help has arrived. Boxes are now actually boxes and not zero collision meshes. And that's it. Stay tuned for 2024 when we announce a cargo refactor, where you can look forward to a delay on cargo purchases. Better yet, enjoy loading, unloading yourself by asking Google or Siri to start a timer for 15 minutes before exiting your chair. That is literally faster and more palpable content than you can expect from CIG. And just so you don't think I'm just a hater, I've backed since 2013. I've probably got over 1,000 beloved hours on SC. I absolutely love this game and I want to see it succeed. So here's what would have made me personally happy. I'm not even asking for all these. Even one would be okay. A couple of new commodities. It doesn't have to be amazing. You can even trash it when you do eventually get around to balancing, an excuse that has become far too prevalent. A new type of material, a specific kind of food, Garcia's sandwich ingredients, yoga pants for the microtech joggers, I don't care. Give us 10 to 20 new... He says a couple and then it's 10 to 20. That's a pretty big jump. It was 10 to 20 new random commodities like this, and I'd already have been happy. Loading and unloading. Timers with some regard given for the value of commodities. If it takes me 20 minutes to do a laranite shipment and you add 10 minutes both ways, double the price of laranite. This wouldn't be expected to be perfect upon release, and it can be easily balanced with some player feedback after a couple of weeks. Cargo missions of any kind. Large cargo box support, so that ships like the Raft or Aurora can at least have their boxes removed, or at the very least, a rebalance of the commodity value so that the gameplay feels at least a little bit fresh to cargo haulers, the ones who were promised help. So honestly, I know this is just another fart in the wind to UCIG, and the community are either going to upvote and agree with me or Picard palm and disagree. I don't care. Just know that every single IAE, every hype generating event, I get more and more tempted to buy another ship. Something to spike that Star Citizen dopamine, something to feel excited for, even if it is only momentary. And when you do shit like this, just know that I feel happy as can be that I will not be doing that anytime soon. And I absolutely recommend everybody do the same. I will not be supporting you this year at IAE, and I really hope, even if it's one other citizen, that they don't either, so that you can finally experience anything resembling a consequence to your actions. There's a few common factors with this post and with what I mentioned in Jack's. This whole part about debating about the importance of cargo hauling and trading, it's more economy than anything else. In fact, economy is the epitome of what we'd be considering the most important loop of any space sim. And combat and trade and cargo hauling are all part of it. Now, here's the point that I brought up in Jack's and something that I'm going to say again. I've said it twice there and I'm going to say it again. Cargo Refactor was about physicalizing cargo boxes. And what we've got right now, and we've had it since 3.0, is that we get a mass of boxes that are essentially glued together that appear in our ship. But the cargo commodities that we've got in our ship aren't tied to those boxes. They're actually tied to values to the ship. And now what we get in Cargo Refactor is those values tied to the boxes. Yes, to a certain degree, boxes are boxes. But it's setting foundational tech that we need in later iterations of Cargo Refactor, that those boxes being boxes, yeah, it's like it makes it important now. And when they talk about a refactor, I didn't mention this before, but a refactor means that a lot of work has been thrown out and new shit has been added. It's normally what happens when you refactor something. You throw a lot of the old shit out and you put a lot of new shit in. And if you know anything about, software development, throwing a lot of old shit out and putting new shit in and making sure that the user doesn't notice is really fucking hard to do. That's just a fact. Not a lot of people understand that, and I get that. But that's something they have to consider. Like, a refactor of code is a lot of work. And if you're trying to achieve, one-to-one functionality so that the user doesn't notice, it's even harder. Normally it's easier just to throw everything out, start again. Sometimes you can't do that. And it's important that, you know, for what CIG is trying to do here with the boxes being boxes, that they structure it in a way that it will interact with quantum correctly, because those NPCs need to be able to a certain degree, see into those boxes as well, just like we can. You know, like, I'll making his post and expectations being, you know, tempered, you know, downplayed and all that. When you think about what's actually required, sorry, I'm just checking messages. Oh, there was a notification. I must have missed it. It should show up in chat too. I don't understand why it doesn't. When you look at cargo refactor and what, if you understand what it's actually supposed to entail, because, you know, like, if you want to dumb it down to boxes being boxes, then yeah, like, not much else needs to be done to achieve that. If you look at it at that simplistic level. But because they use the word refactor, it means that a lot of work gets thrown out from the past. A lot of new work has to be done so that they maintain parity of functionality. And they also have to build it in a way that it forms the structure that they need, so that as they iterate on the feature, they're not going back and redoing shit again, because that's the worst thing that you want to do. So, you know, loading and unloading for cargo refactor is not a necessity, because that, it really just needs to be boxes on ship, boxes off ship. And the difference between putting a timer there is just a timer. But as was mentioned in the Q&A, because it's going to take more time to load that cargo, CIG will have to go back over the value of those commodities and make adjustments. If they are working on a system that'll do that they're not far off from putting in, and we're talking about development far off, so that can be anywhere between, you know, 6 months to the heat death of the universe as we know it. The reality here is that we'll just have to wait, because there's no real reason to do extra work that you don't need to do. It's like anything in real life. You don't want to do more work than what you should. As I was pointing out in Jack's post, like, there's a whole range of things that can come out of just this. It's going to take a bit more effort from the player base, but gameplay is, you know, still there. He's going from a couple of new commodities to 10 to 20. There's actually a lot of commodities that don't show in any trade terminals. Plus, we get the stuff during like IAE, Fleet Week. What else is there? Xeno Threat. Actually, Xeno Threat not so much. Those are more mission boxes still. It's like, even if you add those new commodities, unless they balance all the other ones to line up, you kind of just creating new commodities, and, you know, if you did 10 to 20, you know, it's possible that 17 of them are just ignored. Do you want CIG to put that much time and effort into 17 things that are going to get ignored? Because then they also not only have to do those 17 new things, but go back over everything else and see how it fits. And, you know, to me, it doesn't make sense that they would do that. Like, I understand people wanting it, Doesn't make sense to me to do it right now. Not when we got that quantum thing happening. Loading and unloading timers, like, yeah, like, this is just obvious to me. Like, they're going to have to increase the value that you make from those commodities. How much effort would they have to put into doing that? I don't know. But we're not getting loading and unloading timers in, you know, this patch anyway, so this point is irrelevant. So I have a saying, don't worry about things that you don't need to worry about. Like, if you're not getting something, don't worry about it. We're not getting loading and unloading timers, so worrying about that is kind of like a non-issue. Cargo missions of any kind. You already get cargo missions. It's just a box that you pick up and move to your ship. That's a cargo mission right there. It's a box delivery. I know what he means though. I'm just being a dick. He wants to be able to go to, you know, pick up a mission, buy the cargo, or pick up the mission, pick up the cargo, move it from A to B, and then get paid for it. It's not an unreasonable request. We may get it sooner rather than later, but that's not a cargo refactor thing. That's a mission thing. And the mission team may not have had enough time to be able to take what's been done for cargo refactor and then add it to missions and create missions around it. Large cargo box support so that ships like the Rafter or Aurora can at least have their boxes removed, or at the very least a rebalance of commodity values. CIG's already given their reason for why they're not doing that. There's nothing stopping them from doing it other than their desire to not want to have to redo work later. And, you know, if they're saying that they don't want to redo it later, normally they're talking within the next 12 months. But then again, like, you know, they could be talking years off too. The large cargo box support, like, we're literally just getting, you know, tier 0 cargo refactor, like 1 SCU boxes. You're just going to have to wait. This is somebody just asking for more. I want more. This wasn't enough for the amount of time that was spent working on this. We don't know what challenges that CIG had to put up with. You know, what they had to fight through to get to this point. And as I said before, a refactor in development is a lot more time consuming and a lot more difficult to do than what people understand. So, you know, I understand the frustration. Like, it is frustrating. You know, bloody Star Citizen's development pace feels glacial. I get that. I wouldn't call this patched piracy 1.0. You know, it's going to be a good patch for piracy. Would it be the golden age for piracy? It may be a golden age of piracy. But that really comes down to the community getting together to, you know, like, engage in gameplay. But yeah, I'm interested to understand why Old Mate was PM'd by the mod team. Like, this, I didn't see it before, so it must have been spicy enough that the mod team got in there. But, you know, they didn't close the thread like they normally would if somebody's being spicy. you know, this is, yeah, somebody who was just expecting more and expressing their frustration. There's nothing wrong with that. And see, as I've said in the past, CIG's communication isn't the best when they're communicating their intent. And they didn't temper expectations properly. I'm not going to go into the comments on this. And the other side of it is that I actually can't go for too much longer. So I want to move on to the next thing. So, I can link the post if you guys want. I'm not going to upvote or Picard palm it. Thank you, Alex, for the sub. It's covering my eyes. Where is it? You can read it on your own time, go through the comments and all that sort of stuff. But for me, yeah, Cargo Refactor kind of hit the expectations that I was expecting. Now, this next one has featured, this person is featured in the past on this channel. In fact, they're kind of the reason why this whole show exists. So I'll get the link for all of yous. I don't think you'll need to re-watch it though. I'll post the link in chat now, but you guys can all watch it in your own time if you want. I'll post it at the end as well. But yes, Space Dude, you got it. Good old Morphologist, our buddy. Soft Death. Huge change coming in Star Citizen 318. So yeah, I haven't watched this yet. This was suggested by the other mongrels, and I'm kind of interested to see what Morphologist has to say on this, considering his take on the A2. So let's get straight into it.
End of 2022, and if you've been following,
watch it from the start.
I can't believe it. We're already here at the end of 2022, and if you've been following Star Citizen for a while, you'll know what that means. We are nearing the next patch for Star Citizen, 318. Unfortunately though, if you've not been following the news, you may not know that that patch has been moved back until at least December, where it was originally planned to come out with the IAE, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, the biggest ship sale of the year. Unfortunately, it's due to the fact that persistent entity streaming is a pretty difficult technology to pin down, and they want to make sure they get it right so that they can stay on schedule for getting us server meshing next year along with the new star system, Pyro. However, the topic of today's video isn't the IAE or even necessarily 318 as a whole, but a specific feature as part of that patch that has had some interesting development in the recent days on the Spectrum forums, and that's the cargo refactor. Now I know what you might be thinking, I'm not a cargo runner and this doesn't really matter too much to me, but let me tell you, this is going to change the way that everybody plays the game from here on out. It is a massive change that I was not expecting to see until sometime next year when we finally got things like targetable life support and subcomponents that could be replaced using the new maintenance system. And that's the concept of ship soft death, where your ship is disabled, but
The fuck is this shit? I don't see no fucking mantis there, no fucking QED asset. Why the fuck did the ship stop? There was literally just a cutlass and a fucking gladius. This shit is poisonous to piracy. Pirate gameplay. because this is not representative at all. So when players actually get pirated by people who do piracy, they're going to go, oh, it's only going to be 2 ships, and then they get confused when there's like 5 of us there. What the fuck are they using the cutting tool? Oh yeah, we're going to simulate bloody what a pirate attack actually looks like. You know, it's about what piracy will look like in the future. Well, I'll tell you right now, we're not cutting in on the fucking that side of the ship. The walkway, they're on the wrong side of the fucking caterpillar. Like, that's the right side of the caterpillar. When they crack that door open, you know what they're going to see? A wall of cargo, and that's it. They're not going to be able to get anywhere. Like, that's basic fucking piracy, you know, training right there. On a caterpillar, you always attack the same side as the cockpit because that's the place where the catwalk is. Jack, I could do that. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no fucking excuse for any content creator in this fucking community to make such an amateur mistake when a channel like mine exists. There is no reason for that mistake to ever be made. I don't care. This is fucking RP bullshit. Shouldn't be getting sold as piracy gameplay. You're gonna make a video and do it all wrong? Good. Your premium on ships that we sell to you now goes up, Jack. I hope you understand that. It's gonna give you a good deal too. Not anymore, you're gonna get the pleb deals. Yeah, but where are they gonna put that fucking cargo? They've got a cutlass there. Trace, that's the saddest part. You're right. It is. It's based on the fucking demograph. But here's the problem that I have with that. He has an opportunity to do, you know, education here. And he's already fucking it up. Anyway, I'm just being nitpicky. Let's keep going.
But not destroyed, leaving you and potentially whatever's inside intact for the time being. What does this mean exactly, and how is all this going to work? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you about that and more that was revealed in the AMA with Dan Griffiths, the lead designer over there at CIG, in charge of the cargo refactor. And
this is completely unrealistic, right? Haulers, one, play by themselves. They don't have people on board unless they're Jack Axton. And 2, they don't fucking wear this. They're all in sperm suits and they don't have weapons. Clearly an NPC crew? Probably. They'll put up more of a fight than most players will.
And if by the end of this video you found it informative and you like what I do, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support.
Fidelity,
so
right
if you guys
there.
don't know, CIG occasionally does these AMAs, these Ask Me Anythings on the Spectrum forums to allow members of the community to get involved asking developers questions about new features. And a recent AMA featured the new cargo refactor, which I initially kind of wrote off as just kind of technology and not really anything that interesting for the next patch. However, I was pretty wrong because there's a number of really great features that are coming with 3.18 and the cargo refactor, which are going to change the way that we play the game in a pretty significant way. So Dan Griffiths.
That's like, I find it ironic, like a large content creator on Star Citizen didn't bother investigating what cargo refactor was actually going to be because they just thought it was going to be tech. Like, a huge portion of it is tech. He's right on that side of things, but there was actually, like, gameplay side of things happening too. Yeah, but Jack, I'm pretty sure he was still holding on to the controls when he did it, as opposed to you. You literally just throw your controllers across the room and let Jesus take the fucking sticks. But yeah, I'm shocked. And the fact that he's saying it openly, it's like, what? Like, oh yeah, just cargo refactor, it's, you know, oh, it's just a tech thing. Like, so they're not adding anything to the game. Oh, well, boxes will be physicalized. That's not going to be important, right? Alright. Which is ironic, because I think he plays the game a lot more than what you'd think that somebody would. Alright, let's keep going. I want to hear what Morphologist's take on this. Yeah, exactly, Jack. Like, what the fuck is he here to do then? Like, analyze the architecture of every single ship in game? You know, go across all the buildings and fucking do his architect fucking analysis? Alright, yeah, let's keep this going.
Answered a bunch of really good questions, and I kind of want to go over those quickly before we get to the really juicy stuff. One of the things he talked about, which was asked about, was the way that we'd be loading cargo. It was asked whether or not we would have cargo timers in 3.18, and the answer to that question is no. It's going to work exactly as it is now, where if you buy stuff, it immediately appears in your cargo. So there's not going to be the act of physically loading it, and this comes down to the fact that they still need to work out how they're going to allow people to use tractor beams inside of safe zones without killing each other. Because believe it or not, this was actually done before when they originally introduced tractor beams. You can actually use them along with the med guns inside safe zones. But what ended up happening is that players were chasing each other around, ODing each other, and crushing each other with large objects. So they want to figure that out first before they reintroduce it, and I get that. The other thing that was asked was whether or not we would have cargo grid snapping, because if you look at the way that cargo's stacked when you buy it in game right now, all of the cargo is very neatly arranged on the cargo grid. The answer to that question is yes. So when you get out of the safe zone and you can use your tractor beam, you can actually take off cargo from the grid and then replace it, and it should snap in place, allowing you to pretty neatly stack things in your cargo. However, another player then asked, well, if you have boxes outside of the cargo grid, would that still be sellable if it's inside the ship? The answer to that question was also yes, which is basically what we have right now, which is pretty nice, it's pretty convenient, but it also means that you can kind of cheese the amount of cargo your ship holds. If you've got more space, say in the crew cabin, you can actually just load that with stuff and still sell your things. So we'll see how that gets changed in the future. Another community member also asked whether...
So I can already answer this. So cargo grids, the reason why we have cargo grids and we just can't fucking put cargo wherever the hell we want is that the cargo grids are actually supposed to lock cargo down to a specific spot because those boxes are physicalized and have physics, you know, applied to them. When you're flying your ship around and doing all those maneuvers, cargo in a cargo grid doesn't move. It's like it's been strapped down. Cargo that isn't on a cargo grid is like it's just being thrown in the back of a truck. Unsecured, not strapped down. So it's just going to bounce around everywhere. And with a lot of ships and the maneuvers that they can pull and the G's that they're pulling, those boxes are going to move around. Now, we don't really see that right now in 3.17. I don't doubt we'll see it in 3.18. We might, I don't know. They didn't mention whether or not the boxes will have the full physics, you know, engine implemented on them. You know, so when you're flying your ship around that they start, you know, actually flying around and hitting everything if they're not secured properly. Possible. But that's why. And that's CIG's, they've stated that many times in the past. Like cargo grids exist so that you can put cargo on the grid so that it's strapped down and won't move, because cargo is supposed to react to the movement of your ship. And if it's unsecured, it's dangerous. So, yeah. Pretty much, Alex. Yeah, like just, think of a car with loose items in it, and in the car accident, everything goes flying everywhere. That's pretty much what we'll experience with cargo that's not on a grid. But alright, surprised again. I'm starting to feel like I shouldn't be though, but we'll keep going.
Whether or not we would be getting new commodity prices in 3.18, and unfortunately no, not yet, because they're waiting apparently for the physical cargo lifts to be able to change those prices, because it's going to affect how much you're able to load within a reasonable time, and thus things are going to become more valuable. Community member Zenez then asked whether or not we would be able to purchase larger SCU boxes with this new cargo refactor in order for us to be able to load things in them like armor and weapons for things like org events. I think this question is really good, and I really hope to see this myself, but unfortunately, it's not going to be something that comes in 3.18 because of the same reason I mentioned before, because we can't use the tractor beams yet in safe zones because of the issues with them being used to kill players. And so when they resolve that issue with the
So make the boxes purchasable at trade commodities and just have empty SCU box as a trade type. That way it gets loaded onto the ship. You can buy 5 SCU of empty 1 SCU boxes. Adrian, eventually they will they're not going to remove armistice zones. So this is going off topic from what we're talking about here, but armistice zones right now, we've got soft armistice zones and hard armistice zones. So hard armistice zone means no weapon fire at all. Soft armistice zone means that it's a policed area, highly policed area. So if you do anything like firing a weapon and you hit someone, you're going to get in trouble straight away. But you can fire your weapons. So, rest stops are a good example of this, where they've got the soft armistice zone outside until you land inside the hangar, at which point you've transitioned to a hard armistice zone and weapons can't be used. Eventually, it'll all be soft armistice zones, and you won't be able to use, you will be able to use FPS weapons inside a soft armistice zone. However, there's going to be penalties for that. But we're not getting that yet.
the eventual physical cargo lifts, then yes, we'll be able to buy bigger cargo boxes, which will save a lot of the organizers a lot of time. Alright, now let's get to the juicy bits. So if you guys don't know, right now in 3.17, if you blow up a ship and it's carrying cargo, it has a chance to drop its cargo. Unfortunately, traditionally up until now, what it's dropped is 1/8 SCU boxes, of which there can be many, and so unfortunately because of the quantity of these boxes, they often just don't appear, they just vanish. And even if they are there in space, because there's no way for you to find them in the vastness of the black, it's pretty much like they're not even there, unless you blew up a ship in atmosphere, and even then, it's pretty difficult to find them on the surface of a moon or planet. In patch 3.18 though, all of this is finally going to change for the better. Instead of dropping 1/8 SCU boxes, we're finally going to have full SU boxes come out of wrecks when you blow them up, making the act of loading and unloading cargo far less painful. In addition to this, you're going to have a chance to get up to 95% of the cargo from the ship that explodes, with a random chance to go.
Where the fuck did he get 95% from? Not a single bit of documentation that got put out by CIG went to 90%. Yeah, he said 95. This is what I mean about fucking misinformation from bloody content creators. 69,000 fucking views on this already. It's 0 to 90%. Yes, that is correct. That's right, Trace. It's a 0 to 90% documented range where they're aiming for a 40 to 50% average. So 45 is just the same as saying 40 to 50. Well, I'm not going to even guess where he's tried to get that from, but at the same time, like, it's wrong. It's a small detail. People are going to be, it's, you know, just the difference between, you know, 5%, but it's like, no, it's actually 0 to 90%, which is actually quite a wide range. Did he correct himself? I'm not going to scroll through fucking nearly 500 top comments. Yeah, nobody corrects him. Not in the top 10 anyway. Fuck's sakes. This is already pissing me off. Alright, let's keep it going.
All the way down to 0%. CIG did say though that it would be closer to 45% on average. But the better news here is that when cargo drops out of a ship, they'll now be scannable by your ship's scanner, and they will pop up with their own new UI element that tells you what kind of cargo they are. Personally, I feel like this has been a feature that should have been introduced a long time ago, but
he's right about that. But we're at least getting it now.
Finally, we have a way to locate things that have dropped out of ships. This is going to be great not just for pirates, but for players who have maybe accidentally exploded and want to return to hopefully get back some of the cargo that they lost, and maybe even some items that they had put in their ship's inventory. But what's even a bigger deal than being able to scan down one SU cargo boxes in space is the fact that in 3.18, we're going to finally have a feature that has been discussed for years, and that's soft death. In its full form, what their intention is for you to be able to target specific ship systems to disable a ship instead of blowing it up. Well, there isn't a way for them to get that in just yet. What they've instead decided to introduce is a chance, around 70% chance in fact,
so this isn't common knowledge. It's not common knowledge, but you can already do that. You can't sub-target specific components inside a ship, but you can damage them on some of the ships. Carrick and the MSR are good examples of this. Herc as well. Where if you can apply the right type of explosive damage, you can actually reach the components inside the ship and damage those components without destroying the ship. It's not across all ships, it's across some of them. Soft death is kind of like a stopgap measure, as he's saying. So he's right on that. But yeah, it's gonna keep watching because I want to see what else he has to say, because this is weird. It's like he's got some information that's almost right, but then it's like slightly warped. And you know, I have a huge issue with this. Like, literally, this guy should be just regurgitating what CIG said. Like, it's not hard. The information isn't secret. It's not hard to find. Especially if he's talking about something recent. So, yeah. I'm gonna keep watching.
For your ship not to explode when you're defeated. Instead, what will happen is that your ship will become inoperable and you and your cargo will still be there. This gives you a chance to either be rescued or to be boarded. This has left the community, including myself, with a number of questions and concerns about these new mechanics. Questions like whether or not the ship can still be blown up after it reaches 0% hull and goes into its inoperable state. Because say it can, for example, and people don't know that the ship's been disabled, they might just continue to shoot it and then it will explode anyway. Or say, for example, you were flying in atmosphere and you were disabled. Will you just blow up once you hit the ground, or will it remain at 0% hull and you'll still be alive with the hull on the ground? And whether or not the ship's doors will be operable in this state, because if they're not, you won't be able to escape in something like, say, a Pisces if you.
So, this is an issue with CIG's communication. Sorry about the extra little noises from moving my mic. This is extra information that isn't really that common, that has come out from CIG. And that when you hit the soft death threshold, so your hull is 0%, and you manage to die softly as opposed to die hard, your ship's doors unlock. So the doors will still open. The doors are still operable. Yeah, Alex, he did. But like the doors will still operate, so you can open and close them. So well, what, we're 6 weeks away from Christmas? 5 weeks? I don't know. I'm not counting. I just asked the missus, she'll be able to tell me down to the minute. Yeah. So doors will be operable. Just hide in a turret. Just hide in a turret. There's your safe room right there.
You were in a Carrack, or in your Merlin if you were in a Constellation. And then will disabled ships slow down automatically? Because if they won't and they continue to travel in a straight line, disabled ships are going to be impossible to stop, to board, or salvage, given that we currently don't have any mechanics right now to restrict ship movement like
CIG hasn't said this, but previous experience tells me that ships will slow down. We still have that magic space friction right now. So more than likely that'll still be imparted on the target ship until we get ships like the SRV in. So yeah. Some of this information I don't expect people to know a lot of. Like, pirates know this because we leverage it to our advantage.
ship tractor beams. Those aren't coming in 3.18. And if indeed there is no automatic ship slowdown after being disabled, how is this even a viable mechanic? Everything's going to be moving. How are we going to be able to salvage or board anything if they're traveling at a kilometer a second? And then, is there any visual indication of a soft death? Like, is there some sort of
Yeah. It's a valid question, but I'm pretty sure that the answer is going to be, you will notice that the EM and IR of the ship is going to be 0, and that all the ship's lights will turn off, and that the ship's engines will also be off, and that the ship will start slowing down. So, like, it goes back to the start of the video where I was criticizing, you know, how they were boarding that fucking caterpillar. It's like, you guys were pointing out, yeah, but these guys don't know what a fucking shipboarding is and all that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, that's pretty obvious, and like showing his lack of knowledge here too. Showing a lot of lack of knowledge here. But the problem is like, these are some of these things CIG hasn't answered. And whilst I could sit here and go, yeah, I'm 90% sure that this is what it's going to be, it's not 100%. And the only way we'll be 100% is when we actually get it in our hands and we see it for ourselves. Some of these questions are like, well, we've got current examples that you could reference. But yeah, let's keep this going. We haven't got much longer to go.
Of UI response telling you that the ship has been disabled instead of destroyed, or is there some sort of visual indication with special effects like smoke and sparks or something like that to let us know?
Literally just mention 2 things that would indicate that we have right now.
The ship is in a down state. Personally, I think the answer to these questions is going to determine whether or not this new mechanic has a truly positive impact on our experience in Star Citizen. Personally, I think these concerns are rather obvious, and so hopefully CIG has already thought them through and thought of solutions to release with 3.18, and so we'll have a very complete and interesting mechanic to tide us over the holidays. If not, though, it may be another swing and a miss, and it wouldn't be the first time that this has happened. I mean, if you've been around for a while, you'll know.
No, it's pretty clear. It doesn't matter how fucking long you've been around for. If you don't engage in all parts of the game, you don't know. Like, I know this sounds like I'm hating on Morph, but I'm not. It's just, you only know what you know. And it's pretty clear that he doesn't know this stuff. And he's asking the right questions. The problem is, though, is that he hasn't really sought out the answers, and he's waiting to be told them by someone. Like, I want to do my due diligence when I'm watching this video there, Vox. Like, I don't want to sit there and just, you know, pay off Morphologist. He's still a person. And, you know, like, he's still experiencing that Dunning-Kruger effect. So it's that whole situation where he's kind of like, he hasn't hit the point where he realizes that he doesn't know that much yet. Thinks he knows a lot. Doesn't. My issue with this is, though, is like, he has a large audience and they eat it up. And like, he puts a lot of time and effort into his videos. I'll give him that. Like, he has a level of professionalism for his videos that, you know, like very few content creators replicate, which is why he's able to attract that audience. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, like myself personally, I would be investigating this shit to see if it's possible now. Whereas I don't think it's come across his mind yet. Well, he gained, Blake, you're right, but he's gained a lot of his viewer base based on talking about stuff that he does know about, that not many other people know about. Like, I couldn't do a fucking architect's review on bloody ships or buildings or anything like that because I'm not an architect. And he can. So it's good. Like, you know, he talks about the architecture of things and the design. And it's like, okay, that's interesting to some people. Not to me, but, you know, that's what people are interested in. And he's able to talk it to that to a level of authority that, you know, people go, you know, that makes sense, or that's true, or, you know, I understand what he's talking about, or I like what he's saying. The problem with this, though, is that he's reporting something that's newsworthy. And as I said before, he's asking the right questions, but he doesn't know that this stuff already exists. And that more than likely, we're going to get that in the next patch. It's going to be the same. But as I said before, I can't say 100% either. And I interact with a lot of the stuff that he's asking about now. You know, like, how does ships slow down? Space, you know, magic space friction slows ships down when they're bloody disabled. It takes forever, but it happens. How can you tell that a ship's off? IR and EM go to 0. Well, EM goes to 0, IR will stay up and will slowly start going down. Thing is that I'm pretty sure he's doing research, but not as in-depth. Like, some of the stuff that pirate players know just aren't relevant to anybody else if you're not doing piracy. Like, if you're doing piracy, you need to know some of that shit. Like, it's important to know that when you disable a ship that the EM goes down, because a lot of the time the ship's out of the render range where you can see the ship's lights turn off. So you can't tell that it's offline unless you're looking at your UI. You ask them if you found a counter to the A2. Yeah, it's YouTube, right? YouTube's the counter to the A2. You're right, Bio. Like, EMP, like, a lot of people don't understand it. Distortion damage, a lot of people don't understand it. Well, Mars Bar, if they do that, that's great, because I'll post response videos and go, no, you guys just need to get good. Well, for all we know, like, he does the smart thing and contacts, you know, known pirates and goes, hey, you know, let's give it a go. Let's collaborate on this and, you know, give it a crack. Maybe he might do that, or he'll give it a go himself, see how he goes, and fail miserably. If he reports on it and says, yeah, it's impossible, he'll be like, well, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for saying that. There's plenty of videos out there by others who do this shit, and you have no excuse for not knowing about that. Other than, you know, your interest in Star Citizen is quite shallow. I'm going to say that. I'd like to think not, though. I'd like to be wrong on that one. I've been teaching them for years, Fremen. They don't listen, so I'm not concerned. Alright, let's finish this video off. We've only got 2.5 minutes left. Hopefully I can get through that pretty quick.
Regardless of whether or not it's perfect though, there are also still some concerns that this is going to raise the amount of pirating in Star Citizen. A lot of cargo haulers and generally non-combat oriented players have concerns about an increased level of what they might feel is just griefing or just general pirating, which is supported by gameplay systems. Unfortunately for that type of player, I do think that there is going to be an uptick in pirating, at least initially. Ultimately, there aren't that many new mechanics being introduced into the game to allow players to be restricted any more than they are right now. It's very easy to get away from a pirate right now who isn't organized, and it won't be any different in 3.18.
I'm glad he
the only
said
difference
that part
will be is that there
isn't
will likely be
organized.
just more people trying, given that this mechanic incentivizes more people to try. But this was always going to happen. This was inevitable. Mechanics like these were always in the works from the beginning, and so we're now just getting give it a chance and see what happens, and inevitably CIG is going to rebalance it to make it fun. Their objective is to make a fun experience, and it's just going to take time for them to do that. But what do you guys think? Did you guys think of any concerns that I didn't bring up here? And what do you think the answers to the questions I posed are? Do you think that they are valid questions? Please let me know. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I've been Morphologist.
The obviously, you know, I've already given my thoughts on this, so I'm not gonna. He's closing out, so we can pretty much end on there. I am kind of interested in the comments though. Thanks for dropping in, Jack. I highly recommend that you go back and watch the start of the stream when it's up. Have a good sleep, mate. Alright, so I feel like the small changes they don't highlight are always the most impactful when it comes to gameplay and longevity of a patch. How generic. This is... And so there's nothing wrong with, you know, moving out of your comfort zone. The thing is though, is like, as we pointed out before, Morph hasn't hit his Dunning-Kruger effect yet on what he knows about Star Citizen. And you can't blame people, you know, too harshly, because you only know what you know. but it feels like he should be more, inquisitive with some of the stuff. He's I guess he would be. You consider him the epitome. I'm looking at these comments, by the way, and I'm just not seeing anything fucking interesting here at all. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to switch back to face cam. Like, I expect somebody who wants to do news like that to be a bit more inquisitive. Like, it's cool that he's covering something that he feels is relevant, and as a content creator, that's what content creators would be doing. But yeah, this is one of those situations where I'm like, the answers are there, but he probably isn't aware of that. Skeeto, hello. Oh, Tuki. I don't think he's grown. Like, he's one of the bigger content creators in the Star Citizen community, but he is nothing compared to content creators who do Star Citizen, who play Star Citizen. There are other content creators who do gaming, like Jack Frags, Level Cap, who have come into Star Citizen and they've got, 1 million plus subs. And, like, they're coming into Star Citizen. They have the potential of just, bowling him over. So he's still got room to grow. And the thing about this is that with what Morph is doing, like, my only criticism there is, like, he asks some good questions. He's ignorant to, what you can do now, though. Don't think, like, for piracy gameplay, you're not really pushed to investigate, though. Like, it has to be a desire. Like, you have to want to do it. And a lot of players don't. But if you're going to comment on it, you should be motivated to, especially if you're a content creator, to investigate, look into it. Still 8,000 more referrals than level cap at number 2. Level cap doesn't cover Star Citizen as much as what Morph does, though. But yeah, like, Morph exploded when he did his Architect's review on the 890. Like, that's where he got the majority of his referrals. Captain Grim, is your org planning out your piracy? And if so, what are you doing for the cargo changes? We're actually sitting this patch out. We're all taking a break. Like, I say that, I'm just being a dick. We're going red flag ops. And what that means is no mercy, no quarter, no exception. Catch you later, Rough White Riders. Were you caught out in those floods, mate? It's probably already gone. It's pretty rough, man. Hearing about all the floods that you guys are getting down south now. Like, I feel the pain. Like, Queensland had all that earlier in the year. No worries, mate. You have a good one. So, Captain Grim, you are correct. This YouTube channel is about piracy content. And this reaction show though is about reacting to content within the Star Citizen community. This is just a live stream. It's a bit of therapy for me. But a lot of the stuff that we react to is in line with piracy stuff. So when this stream is over, you can go back over the video, and the first two topics are about cargo refactor and my take on it from a pirate's perspective. How's it going, man? Yeah, 100%. Like, fucking, it's gloves off in 318. Fuck them. That's alright, Grim, man. Normally I'm actually streaming this a bit later. I'm doing it earlier than normal because I've got a morning shift tomorrow. So yeah, that's the only reason why it's on now. Neo, yes, I am in Queensland. No, Captain Grim, it's not weird. Like, it's gameplay, man. It's gameplay. That's what people want. You know, you didn't fucking buy Star Citizen just to bloody, you know, replicate what you do in real life, or replicate somebody else's, you know, job in real life. You know, you can't be a space trucker, but, you know, cargo hauling is essentially just trucking, moving bloody things from one place to another. And it's like, you know, we didn't buy into a fucking video game just to, you know, do the mundane things in life. It's what a lot of people want to, you know, do. And piracy presents a bit of a gameplay opportunities, emergent gameplay. You know, like, I understand people, you know, it's not everybody's flavor of gameplay. You know, some people don't want to do piracy. That's okay. Some people don't want to get pirated. That's okay too. It's gonna fucking happen though. You know, CIG is allowing it. It's allowed within the game rules. So the fact of the matter is like, there are going to be players that are going to do it. There's other games that are out there that cater towards those who, you know, want riskless gameplay, like Elite Dangerous. Go play Elite Dangerous and be a space trucker there and never see another fucking person, and run away from NPCs who are too retarded to do anything to you. Feel good about making the numbers in your wallet get big. I know some people like that. That's okay. It doesn't bother me. It's just when they try and make Star Citizen like Elite Dangerous, it's like, you fuckers already killed one game. Stay the fuck away. You risk permanent brain damage from extreme boredom by playing Elite Dangerous. I didn't play enough of Elite Dangerous to get that far. Like, I was trying to do piracy in Elite Dangerous, did a little bit of it, but I got tired of doing it against NPCs real quick. At the end of the day, we all bought into a game to experience it our own little way, and CIG has said that they're going to try and cater to all of us. And, you know, as much as fucking Care Bears don't like it, that also means the players who want to do PvP or piracy. And if you don't like it, just, you know, eat a bag of dicks. Too bad. Skeeto. Moth of Maple, thank you very much for the sub. Skeeto asks, if left with no options, what's the proper way to surrender Mongrel Squad? There is no way to surrender to us. You must fight to the death. If you want to lay down... Actually, I lie. If you lay down on the ground, we probably won't shoot you. That said, though, it is red flag, so we probably will shoot you in this patch as the exception. Moth is here for bounties, VIP escorts, and roleplay. Not into the roleplay aspect, man, but, you know, like, fucking, apparently we are. Hyper roleplay is a term that gets used when talking to us like that. 100% Captain Grim. You don't like what we're doing? Come stop us. I'm all about that. Here's the thing, guys. Like, the reason why we're going red flag for 318 is there's a lot of pent up anger, and we're going to take it out on the community. No, it's about creating danger within the game. Like, there's not enough of it. And piracy up until 318 has required the cooperation of the target. Like, we have to get them to cooperate if we really want to make credits. So, for 318, it's just red flag ops. It's like, we're going to go wild with this. Like, we've got the opportunity to. Let's see how far we can take it. You know, maybe we go push hard enough that the community pushes back and we start getting more gameplay out of it. Maybe we push too hard and the fucking community just crumbles and, you know, just disappears. And CIG is just sitting there going, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. My take on it is, though, is like, it's going to be good. Like, I'm looking forward to it. Really am. And I really do hope that the community starts pushing, you know, back. I have this, you know, I say this on occasion that it sometimes feels like we're playing the game 6 months ahead of everyone else. Like, and it sounds dumb if you don't understand what I mean. But what I mean by it is that we have interactions that people are sitting there going, oh yeah, it'd be really cool if we could do that. And, you know, we're all sitting there going, you can do that right now. And I'll pull out a video and I'll be like, yeah, here's us doing this thing that you said would be really cool if you could do it. And it's like, you can do it, like right here. You know, shipboardings. People are like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool when the shipboarding mechanics come in. And it's like, what the fuck you want about? You can do it right now. Here's 5 videos that are showing it in the last patch. But it is what it is. We'll just have to wait and see what the community does. I really do hope that they do push back. That they engage in the gameplay and they start, you know, like talking to each other more and planning and forcing us to iterate on what we do. I really want that because we've been doing piracy against the Agens. Thanks for dropping by, man. Appreciate it. Fucking love that name, Toe Cutter. Mad Max reference. Yeah, that's right, Sorrel. Like, you know, That's part of the reason why I started posting videos of us doing piracy too, because people were like, yeah, you can't do shit, boy. And it's like, fuck off, you can't. We literally did one a couple of days ago. It's going to be an eye-opening experience, 318. And I know a lot of people are saying, like trade's pretty much going to die. I've already given my opinion on that, and I think the limitation is going to force innovation. And if there's enough people who are willing to innovate, we will achieve a lot more gameplay. Thank you very much for the sub there, Neo Fox. Appreciate that, mate. So the way I see it is like, I'm curious to how, things go. I don't want to I understand, the concerns people want trade to be more profitable. But as I said earlier, we've had profitable trade before and it was too profitable and it got to the point where it didn't matter. At the same time though, the way I see it is that if pirates can exert enough influence, the trade will be profitable enough to keep players who engage in trade engaged with it. Yeah, I'm also hoping that a lot of pirate orgs come, back into the game and they, try their hand at piracy and then we steamroll them. All the pirate orgs who are active and doing their thing, and have been, practicing, learning. What I want to happen more is, having that competition there. Like Chaos Squad, for example. We still talk outside the game like we're mates, but in game it's gloves off. And that's just the way it is. It's nothing personal, it's business. Right? It's about making, gameplay, the competition, having fun with it. Being able to look back, as you learn more from failure than you do from success. Looking back at what happened, what you did, what you could have done better. What they did that managed to beat you. That's really what I'm hoping to get out of 318. It doesn't bother me if we lose fights. It's about being able to look back at what we do. That's right, Hex. 100%. The way I see it, you can't be, the best pirate org in the game if you don't fail enough to learn. And I can tell you now, guys, a lot of the videos that you guys see us doing now are built on years of experience and, lots of failure too. A lot of the failure that we have is mainly in training and simulations and testing. Just to a certain point, mate, yes, you're right. But yeah, we're pretty much on the 3-hour mark, guys, so I'm going to call it there on the stream. I got to get up in 5 or so hours in time for work, so I really appreciate everybody coming along for the stream tonight. I know it's not at the usual time. We still got, I think it was 60 something viewers. Not our highest count, but it was still good to have, you guys showing up. Those who are watching the VODs afterwards, eat a bag of dicks. It is what it is. Yeah, that's it for tonight's stream, guys. I don't know what's going to go on with next week's stream, if it's going to be a similar situation or, you know, back to the usual time. We'll see what happens. Just as a reminder, Mongrel Court this week, 19th of November, 3 p.m. UTC. Do your own time conversion. I will make it a community post announcement. Make sure you share it with your mates. Like it, subscribe if you haven't already. Same with the video, like that, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with your mates. We also have another piracy video going out this week. It's a pretty good one. It's a C2 doing a nosedive. Cargo and, you know, good piracy stuff. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all next week.